This program is brought to you by Monflo, Ito Innovative Technology, Real Root Supplements, Pro Privacy, Goud 999 en VRB, van eenmanszaak naar BV.
Because you don't comply, you're not a victim. Because you don't comply, you actually get strong and you find sovereignty and you even raise your soul to a situation where I always say zoom back or zoom above and look at things from a distance. Yeah. Well, one thing is important is humility.
Yes.
And nobody knows everything. Nobody can know everything. So the first step is in a debate is that you start by saying there are lots of unknown unknowns and that I can take my piece of the puzzle and give part of my truth and let's find the bridge. Health doesn't belong just to doctors. That's the first thing that we know, and that's WHO made that clear because they wanted their agenda. But actually, health is in the environment. It's not anymore in the hands of governments. It's another level. And I hope everybody who listens to us will take that seriously and bring this evidence further on, that we are ready to discuss all together the solutions, because it's a war on life itself.
They are lying to you and they are controlling you.
That's your answer. We are beyond the tipping point.
During the battle for science in February this year, we brought some of the most courageous and outspoken international voices of our time to the Netherlands. Names such as Del Bigtree, Peter McCullough, Susharit Bhakti, and many others shared their perspectives on the state of science, health, media, and the societal developments we are all witnessing today. In addition to their appearances on stage, we recorded exclusive interviews. In this series, you now have the opportunity to watch these conversations. Today, we offer you British public health speaker Laura Anderson, who spoke with WHO whistleblower Dr. Astrid Stuckelberger, a scientist from Switzerland who worked for the WHO but didn't want to be part of this criminal organization when they started spreading fear and lies upon us. A lady with brains, a moral compass, and guts. Dr. Astrid Stuckelberger.
This is the battle for science.
Hello, I'm Laura Anderson. Welcome to Lighthouse TV. I'm very honored to be here with Lighthouse TV doing this interview with Astrid Stuckelberger. And I wanted just very briefly to frame it in terms of why I'm sitting here, what brought me to this place. I have been a public speaker and someone who created conferences through the pandemic, because I realized there was something terribly off with the narrative. I think when I realized that we were only getting one line, one narrative, and we weren't being allowed to actually listen to what was being said by other people who were, for me, amongst some of the most respected world authorities in their fields. Why were they saying things and we were being prevented from listening to them? That for me was enough for me to start joining my own dots to the point where I realized I didn't even need to draw a line between the dots. And Astrid was very much part of that journey for me. And here she is sitting here. And we've just been having this beautiful conversation about, why we came to this place, what made us sit and speak out as human beings, as mothers, as people who have multifaceted aspects to our lives. And I wonder if I could just ask you very briefly to introduce yourself to Lighthouse TV and explain who you are and why you've come to be sitting in this chair today.
Well, thank you, Laura, for inviting me. I'm glad to be there for Lighthouse TV. I have credentials like a Master of Science in Mental Health, a PhD in Epidemiology, Public Health, Population Study, and a Privat Docent of the Faculty of Medicine, 30 years at the Faculty of Medicine, Geneva, Lausanne, professor even in Russia and other places. But the most relevant today is everything I did with the international organization and WHO in particular, working for 4 years on emergency management of epidemics and pandemics, and really working contracted, and many other consultancies all along. And also with the EU, the European Union, and for governments. So I've been doing science for policy making. And that was the most fascinating part of my life, because you're helping population, you're helping policymakers, and in brief, that's what I did until.
Do you feel like you were in training for now?
Yes, definitely. When the outbreak, the pseudo outbreak happened, I was like, oh, now I understand why I'm here. All my line of life course brought me to that moment where I can, express what is happening and with evidence and explain to people what is happening. And I thought I was just doing education at the beginning until I got censored massively and treated as a terrorist almost. And yeah, so yes, it makes really a sense. What you live in life echoes in eternity. That's a very famous sentence. But what you do in life and all your challenges help you for the moments you're living later on. So I can almost say thank you to all the challenges of raising my children alone, of being the free electron in the family and not thinking like others, and with critical thinking. And all this brings you to a moment where you're like, yes, okay, got it.
I feel that our society has almost crushed the concept of critical thinking out of us.
Yes.
It's programmed us to be followers, to receive information and not to question it. Yet it's one of our fundamental gifts as a human being to have critical thinking. What would you say, did you ever have a moment where you went, I'm not going to say anything, I'm going to shut up, I'm feeling too much pressure, this is too awful? Or were you just compelled to speak? What was it that drove you?
Well, first I've developed critical thinking because I always went countercurrent with innovation or another way of thinking. For example, the first part of my life was on aging and geriatrics and decline, and then it was on active and healthy aging, and then it was in anti-aging. So I was teaching students and, many courses, even with American students, on how to think differently out of the box to find solutions. So that was a part of my life always. Now, when it happened, this COVID shock, I would say, I was very critical, and I made a lecture to the American students online, and the Vanderbilt University, contacted me and said, we don't want her to teach anymore to this international school. So I was like, oh, what's going on? This is the first time in my life that the courses are getting off. And so my critical thinking there was that something very serious is happening. It's not just an outbreak or something. There is censorship that is very strong. But because I'm used to have people opposing me and arguing, and it is nice, it's like in sports, you develop muscles, and in diplomacy and in peace. This time there was not as much peace. So I was very careful, diplomatic, never to mention anybody, never to blame. The blame game is not always constructive. So I try to be like a trainer to open minds and to think differently. And I still do that. I don't say everything I know because it's all based on science, but some things are hypotheses. So
knowledge is power.
Yeah, definitely.
But consciousness is also power.
Yes.
Having the intuition. So it's about balance, would you say?
I would say that there are many scenarios of how people got it, what is happening, and understood something abnormal is going on in the world. And some people knew right away in their soul that it's not right. They didn't see people dying on the street, and they felt something was wrong. So there was already a ground intuition of knowledge I would say inner knowledge, gnosis,
Yes.
And then others had to go through a process of systematic epidemiology and thinking to be convinced. And others have doubts. And when in doubt, some need the tribe. I call it like that. They need to be with the tribe, the doctor's tribe. The medical doctors had to stay together, otherwise they were afraid to be casted out.
Yes.
So if you are a free thinker, it doesn't matter if people don't think like you. You actually think it's a rich situation. It's enriching. internally. And that's how I take it. It's very enriching what's going on because you can feed your soul and choose, and you see the freedom of choosing and discovering and searching, and it's an exploration in your soul and in science too, in politics. Yeah.
Yes, I understand. So if you were to give a young person stepping into the world at this point, where it feels almost impossible to know who you are as an individual because you're thrown so many options, social media generally, our societal influences, our education system. I mean, you could choose a variety of different things. What would be the tool bag if you were to give a young person starting out who wanted to make a difference? Because I can see in you someone who your mission was to make a difference. You wanted to work for WHO, UN, because you felt they would make a difference. How does somebody navigate that in this current environment, this current place in the world?
Youth is really challenged. You can see the statistics of depression, even down to 8 years old. I don't know how you judge a depression in an 8-year-old, but there is something happening socially that a whole generation is lost in translation of what is going on, and they are suffering. So this youth that is lost, and all the youth I talk with have witnesses of, cases, but also you have statistics. So I think that this is going to be a passage of transition, almost an initiation, to take back your sovereignty and to say, okay, I have to be myself and refuse what is bad for me. And they have to choose. Maybe they have to go through the darkness.
De uitzendingen van Lighthouse TV bevatten reclames. En ik weet dat sommigen van jullie daar last van hebben. Toch is het belangrijk dat ze er zijn. Want zonder deze inkomsten zou Lighthouse nu niet bestaan. Maar er is goed nieuws. Want vanaf oktober starten we met het Lighthouse Insider account. Daarmee kijk je al onze programma's volledig reclamevrij. Krijg je korting op de webshop, events en krijg je toegang tot de aankoop van een Lighthouse TV token. Een micro-aandeel op de blockchain. Mooie ontwikkelingen dus, maar tot die tijd wil ik je vragen om begrip. Haak niet af als je reclames ziet, maar probeer om te denken. Iedere spot die je ziet helpt Lighthouse TV financieel vooruit. En draagt indirect bij aan ons onafhankelijke en kritische geluid. En dat is keihard nodig. Dank voor je steun.
Well, I think that's the point, isn't it? And I think that is one of the problems that we have, is that we're almost masked from going through that darkness. We're being told that we mustn't be triggered by things. We must be entitled to everything. If you're feeling a little bit anxious, have an antidepressant, and you get dumbed further and further down the system.
The mask was actually very symbolic that, shut up, don't talk. And,
yes, it was very visual.
And don't communicate.
Yeah.
So what you see now is the youth is communicating a lot. There's a lot of parties. There's a lot of happening events. So I think there is a change for the better, but we have to help them to fight their rights, find a new world. We cannot go back to normal. It's impossible because the normal was really bad. So the eco-villages, to create a life where you have natural meetings, food that is natural, have a piece of land, be happy with what you have not in the Schwab cements and not in the Agenda 2030, but there are the little things in life that make you happy. It's not money.
No.
It is not, of course it helps, but to find really a post-survival mode of thinking, what life do we want as a youth generation? And we will help you. I mean, I try to give hope to the young people and say, find a piece of land or a place you like and develop your life with the people you like. Don't let evil invade you. It's really...
So it's about stepping away from being a victim and taking back your personal responsibility as a human being.
Yes, the thing of the victim is really important, not to fall into the trap of victim. Because you don't comply, you're not a victim. Because you don't comply, you actually get strong and you find sovereignty and you even raise your soul to a situation where I always say zoom back or zoom above and look at things from a distance.
Yes.
At the end of your life, you will be happy of your decision you took today. And it's about harmony. I mean, it's a big word, but I think to zoom back is very important.
Yes, the eagle's perch, seeing things from a higher perspective and realizing that you are the one who can control it, and it doesn't have to be that you are having things imposed. I thought, as an illustration, we got stuck here on the way to Amsterdam yesterday, and there we were at the airport, and immediately you start to feel stress. It's like the environment has been created to constantly trigger us. And we get to the EasyJet kiosk, and we're late. We haven't checked in online. And they then managed to say to us, all right, well, I'm so sorry, you can't get on. And we're like, well, we've got to go to Amsterdam. We've got to get to this event. But they could hide behind a sequence of instructions that they've been given by their peers. And then they shut down, because what they're receiving is, of course, the anxiety and the stress that they have created by imposing those regulations upon them. But what was a really interesting observation to me was there we were as people who have got maybe further in our conscious understanding of how to cope in a situation like that. And although we were the ones who were being inflicted with not being able to get on the plane, actually the people who were suffering were the employees who were standing there at the desk. It's almost like they switched off and just stared at the ground. And I thought there is a perfect illustration to me of where we've got to as a humanity, as a society. And it's a very, very dangerous moment where you have to make an income. You have to somehow navigate. That's a good, powerful word for now, I feel. That's what I've been doing. That's what you've been doing. We have to navigate our way through this environment that has been constructed and imposed upon us. So it's finding the tools of consciousness that enable us to do that, isn't it?
Well, what's interesting with your example is that humanity is humanity. And when people are obeying a protocol, like in medicine, like in many other areas, you can, by touching their humanity, it's an exercise.
Yes.
And you remind them that they are human, and could they try and find a solution, heart to heart in a human sense. And sometimes it shifts completely the atmosphere. Sometimes, you say, well, you choose. You want to be like a robot, or you want to try and find a solution together. And it actually works sometimes really beautifully.
I can see that. And I've thought that often, as I look at you, when we start having eye-to-eye communication with another human being, it's very difficult actually to have that. How would wars start if we went to that principle, for example?
Well, first, war would not start if there are enough women among men, and the equilibrium between man and woman is reestablished in not in a competitive way, in a complementary way. The world is completely unbalanced. They have programmed men to be, yes, let's go to war. No, we are the empire and we have won over you. And I saw a discussion just today, and I was like, women don't think the same, and that can help beautifully. And some men have this feminine energy that is very strong, where it's impossible to take a gun. It's impossible to even make an aggression. We have another way of making a war on evil.
Yes, exactly.
It is with goodness, with help, with heart, and you manage sometimes, but it's a very different strategy.
It is, but it is about balance. It is about honoring that we all have, just as you have your incredible levels of understanding and analysis and research, you have your part to play, just as these doctors do. So if I can bring it to a medicine or a medical discussion for a minute, do you think that there is, in our current social medical environment, do you think that that is a working model? Do you think it needs to be, how can it be changed? How can we find a new paradigm? This is a big question, isn't it? Because we've got this huge machine, and I was talking to Professor Bhakti about this, it's become oppressive because the doctors have been weaponized and used to create this pandemic, in a way, of illness that we now have in our society. And people are just waking up to the fact that this is what's happened to them and they have this issue. How do we...
Well, Professor Bhakti is a very good example of a man with an incredible heart. And you feel the humanity in him. Yeah. And so if we start from that point, a doctor or somebody who's scientific and want to serve humanity, if they are there, it's to do good and not do harm. And the system model starts from there.
Yeah.
It's an unconditional action to do good for people with a method. And whether you are, a microbiologist, a doctor, public health, you're always there to discuss with your peers that have this ethic and to try and find solutions. Based on science, of course, evidence is a key. And we don't have all the same evidence because we come from different disciplines.
And you may disagree.
Coherence.
Yeah.
No, but it's a disagreement on methods.
There we go.
And many people are not used to work with engineers, with lab people, and try to understand what they're talking about and how we can translate that and transfer that into the different science to come to the human and to try and help a human being in his disease, in his fear, in his situation, and then to help the whole population, which is a bit more difficult to standardize things. It's one of the problems.
I think
all different.
Yes, well, I think the difference, though, is the joy, isn't it? If we were all the same, then the world would be rather dull.
Yeah.
So we have to honor the fact that maybe we do come at things from different perspectives.
Sure.
And that is true and right. But there has to be a coherence. There has to be a point where we come together and realize that, hey, we're all supposed to be on the same team here. Yes.
Well, one thing is important is humility.
Yes.
And nobody knows everything. Nobody can know everything. So the first step in a debate is that you start by saying there are lots of unknown unknowns, and that I can take my piece of the puzzle and give part of my truth, and let's find the bridge. And let's find a further solution, not to debate that you're right, you're not.
Exactly.
But to try and find a coherence to go to the whole way to the solution and then to the policy.
Yeah.
But policy is a word that comes from the Greek, I have to remind that it is the city and citizen. It's two meanings to politics. So you have doing all the evidence construction to help citizens, population. That's why I'm teaching and I'm making public conferences. And they ask me, so I'm doing that, or I write books. I have 12 books. But then it's also the part that WHO is supposed to do too, at the collective way. And that's a bit more strange. And then the policymakers, of course, but they're not educated in science. So we have to rephrase our coherence to help them.
Intellectual
keep
humility.
And humility. We don't know everything and it's not a war.
Op dit exacte moment bewegen er miljoenen onzichtbare frequenties door jouw lichaam en de ruimte om je heen. Radiogolven, wifi, bluetooth, licht en geluid, magnetische velden en misschien zelfs signalen die we nog niet volledig begrijpen. Je ziet ze niet, je hoort ze niet, je voelt ze misschien onbewust, maar wat als ze meer invloed hebben op je leven dan je beseft? Wat is eigenlijk een frequentie? En als alles in het universum trilt, resoneert en een eigen frequentie heeft, welke rol spelen deze onzichtbare krachten dan in ons dagelijks leven? Nou, dat is één van de grote vragen die we gaan onderzoeken tijdens de allereerste editie van de Battle Beyond Science op 18 en 19 september dit jaar. Na het grote succes van de Battle for Science in februari, waar de staat van de wetenschap centraal stond, gaan we nu op zoek naar antwoorden op vragen waar de wetenschap geen of nog geen antwoord op heeft. Welke invloed hebben frequenties op ons lichaam, op onze gezondheid, op onze emoties en bewustzijn? En als die invloed er dan is, hoe werkt dat dan? Nou, dat gaan we dus visualiseren. Op grote schermen tonen we live hoe geluid, water, licht en trillingen zich vertalen naar indrukwekkende patronen en vormen. Niet alleen maar om het te zien, maar vooral ook om te leren, te ervaren en te voelen. Laat je dus verrassen door inspirerende lezingen, live-experimenten met onder andere remote viewing, telepathie, tijdreizen, kwantummechanica en sound healing sessies die wetenschap, verwondering en beleving samenbrengen. Met bijzondere gasten zoals de Britse wetenschapper John Stuart Reid, Erik Larakker, Marijn Poels, Baptiste de Paap, professor Pierre Capel, contactee Elena Danaan en vele andere. Stuk voor stuk sprekers die je zullen uitdagen om verder te kijken dan de grenzen van de traditionele wetenschap. Reserveer vandaag nog je ticket en beleef het allemaal op 18 of 19 september tijdens de allereerste editie van de Battle Beyond Science. Want alles heeft een frequentie.
Waarom zou je moeilijk doen met allerlei apps, wallets en bankrekeningen als dat in één account kan? Beheer al je euro's en crypto's eenvoudig in één app waarbij je altijd toegang hebt tot jouw geld. En de boodschappen betaal je eenvoudig met de betaalpas die je wereldwijd kunt gebruiken. Ga nu naar www.monflow.com/lighthouse en ontvang ook nog eens een gratis betaalpas.
Werk jij als ondernemer nog vanuit een eenmanszaak of VOF? Heb je een goedlopend bedrijf en maak je winst? Maar voel je je als een hamster in een hamsterrad? Je werkt hard, maar je komt geen stap vooruit. Dan kan dat heel goed kloppen. Want waar een eenmanszaak of VOF een fiscale fuik is en jou als ondernemer klein houdt, is een beschermende BV-structuur juist een fiscaal vliegwiel dat je helpt om iets op te bouwen en te groeien. Want met een beschermende BV-structuur betaal je tot wel 50% minder winstbelasting. Je houdt daardoor veel meer over om weer te investeren en al je bezittingen zijn optimaal beschermd. Wil je weten hoe dit zit voor jouw situatie? Vraag dan nu gratis het e-book aan van eenmanszaak naar de beschermende BV-structuur via vrbadvies.nl.
This has been a great problem, though, hasn't it? This is what has driven this whole thing, is that doctors aren't taking that personal responsibility of being able to say, maybe I actually got this wrong. Maybe they're not even looking.
They trained to obey. Sorry, but I worked with doctors my whole life, collaborated fantastically well with them, but there's a change. Mm-hmm. They have changed, and I have realized that many of them have taken the way of being commercial doctors, making money, selling the pharma, and they are entangled in this trap. And there are, of course, professors who do research and are clinicians, but they're not in the population. Mm-hmm. They're in clinic, and a clinic is a small part where people are sick.
You're not doing the eye-to-eye contact.
No, and they're pathocentric. Yeah. They only see the disease and not the health.
The person.
So that's why public health is so interesting, because it's health-centered, and we need to shift that into empower population, empower doctors and all disciplines to see health in the environment, health in society, in lifestyle, in nutrition. They don't have a course in nutrition for 6 years.
I mean, that's pretty damning.
It's incredible, you know. Mm-hmm. It shows you how it has changed, and it was not like that before. Mm-hmm. You see old professors and doctors who have an experience, and they're really there to help you.
Yes, it was in the true sense of the word holistic. That's what it was.
Yeah, with herbs.
Yes,
herboristeries and were known. They could prescribe. In Switzerland, they have still alternative medicine in the health insurance. So that's interesting model.
So do you think, I mean, talking about models, do you think that as a structure, we have a structure that is still workable, like the WHO, if it was repurposed, if you wish? Look at you.
No.
No, done. Yeah. So because to create a new paradigm, which is really what we're looking at and what needs to happen, we need to create a new focus, a new direction, a new perspective for society, for government. I mean, for governments, for medicine, for education, for whatever you want. Yes. But how do you start? We have to find a place of commonality where we can actually go, all right, how do we go about that? How do we make that a thing? Obviously, empowering the individual to an understanding has got to be a critical part of that.
Well, health doesn't belong just to doctors. That's the first thing that we know, and that's WHO made that clear because they wanted their agenda. But actually, health is in the environment, and you find now eco-villages that create medicinal gardens. Yeah. We're getting back to find in everywhere where the grandmother's recipe of health is coming back a little bit. So in the village, you have everybody should be aware of that, and not just a WHO or one directing the whole health agenda. It's very dangerous. That's what happened. It was hijacked by the private sector since a long time, actually. But
I think a lot of people just haven't seen this.
Well, I saw that because Dr. Halfdan Mahler, he was Danish, Director General of WHO, and I was a lot, with the experts, and I met him. I also met him when he was retired, and already very early he said, I cannot do anything more because I'm like that. He showed handcuffs with the private sector, and he developed the primary healthcare centers. And that is a great model. Mm-hmm. You put little centers of health everywhere, but it has to be contextualized. If it is in Africa, they have herbs and they have knowledge, and we develop that, share it with others. And every culture can take back their own knowledge, ancestral knowledge, and we create a much nicer world.
We've lost that connection with the ancient and the deep wisdom that we held, and the deep wisdom that we actually do hold within our own beings.
WHO had a traditional medicine department just beside the mental health division where I was working on differential cultural diagnosis of mental health. So every culture judges differently and makes
That's fascinating.
Yeah. And actually at that time, and it was in the years 90s, and it was my Master of Science, and the United States was already, doing their risk assessment on pharma. But Philippines or Africa were doing much more social and much more holistic approach to what is a mental health problem on case vignettes. And that was fascinating. But besides, there was a traditional medicine, and they were having books and promoting that. Yeah. But that's over since 10, 15 years. Things have changed, and they want to standardize the world.
Yeah, more captured.
No, and standardize protocols.
Yeah.
I mean, the key is that they have used a dictatorship with protocols and guidelines that the private sector has helped to carve with McKinsey. You have to know WHO. I have very inside information also, and also knowing that McKinsey has been paid millions. We have numbers and reports for making the agenda of WHO and the guidelines and the meetings program, etc. since 2018. Definitely.
This has been very pre-planned.
It's not anymore in the hands of governments. It's another level.
This is what people need to understand. It's a total capture.
Yeah, the whole UN is captured. And I'm very glad that President Trump has dismissed and exited WHO, stopped funding, but also the whole UN system, because WHO is just a kid entry door of the whole United Nations system.
It's a really good way of putting it.
And I always have demonstrated that don't just take WHO, has to have the approval of the Secretary General and the General Assembly of all the governments.
Right.
It's a system, and now we have the Security Council too. But anyway, so this whole system has to be slowly dismantled and transformed in something with ethics and morals. And I can tell you that I have looked in the whole UN system where is ethics, and the only place is WHO, where I was on the Ethics Review Committee for 4 years. I have letters from Director Generals. And so I learned what is ethics in research. But I looked in other agencies, and I found in ILO that the Jesuit is creating the morals of the International Labour Office. And then there was one ethical bureau at the secretary level department who was solving cases of conflict in human resources. And that's it.
Wow.
That was the morals of the United Nations with their charter.
Individuals.
It was beautiful, but it is there is a problem of morality and ethics. Yeah,
that's a big one.
Yeah, and religions were cast out.
Yes.
Except the Vatican, Holy See, has an observer seat. And I could already, I witnessed, they're correcting texts and taking women out of the text. And I was like, okay. That keeps on.
It's like editing the Bible.
Exactly.
It's the same principle, isn't it?
Yeah. So you see that some religions are allowed.
Yes.
Otherwise, the NGOs, there's the World Council of Churches.
Yeah.
And they're kind of guiding and not guiding the moral.
It's like a constructionism, isn't it? It's just everything is being, it's like a game of chess that has been played upon the world that the world has not even understood is happening. And
Yes.
I feel at this point, I don't know if you would agree with this, but it feels like we've come into a real-time moment where all those chess players are starting to be illuminated on the board.
Yes, but we have to also highlight the historical facts that after World War I, the League of Nations was created in Geneva, and then it was dismissed there was already a fight between governments there, and then after the Second World War, then the United Nations was created at WHO in 1948. And from then on, it looks like they have constructed that with conscious and awareness of infiltrating all the areas of life to this point. And I often make a conference to demonstrate that it's not possible to think that is random.
No.
And that's why there's so many agencies that nobody understands what they're doing. But what they're doing is they're meeting every sector of life, and they can give their orders to the whole mechanics of this decision-making from top to bottom of every government in the world. Even indigenous people have a forum at the UN where I've been, and I'm like, gosh, they're asking for their sovereignty and nothing happens.
Yes.
To self-determination of people. And that's what we have to get back to. Self-determination of people and of self.
It comes back to the self again.
Je werkt hard en spaart, maar toch klopt er iets niet. Geld op de bank lijkt veilig, maar wordt steeds minder waard. Soms zit de oplossing in iets eenvoudigs. Iets wat al duizenden jaren waarde houdt. Goud en zilver. Bij Goud 999 koop je eenvoudig fysiek edelmetaal. Veilig en op jouw naam opgeslagen in Zwitserland. Meer dan 25.000 spaarders gingen je al voor. Wil je niet alleen sparen, maar ook jouw vermogen beschermen? Ga naar goud999safe.com/lighthouse en ontvang tijdelijk 5 gram zilver cadeau.
Waar komt ons eten vandaan en door wie wordt het gemaakt? Die vraag houdt mij al jaren bezig. Daarom ben ik gaan werken aan mijn eigen natuurlijke productlijn. Met ingrediënten van zorgvuldig geselecteerde boeren en afkomstig van dieren die een goed leven hebben gehad. Bij Real Roots beginnen we niet bij het product, maar bij de bron. We selecteren voedingsrijke ingrediënten uit de puurste leefomgevingen. Van vitamine A tot zink brengen we de kracht van dierlijke voeding samen. Orgaanvlees, bottenbouillon, colostrum, oesters en grasgevoerd rundvlees. In geconcentreerde vorm, zodat deze traditionele voedingsmiddelen op een eenvoudige en logische manier passen binnen een moderne dagelijkse routine. Ik ben Gino, oprichter van Real Roots. En ik geloof in de kracht van de natuur. Ontdek wat echte voedingsstoffen voor jou kunnen betekenen op realroots.nl met code Lighthouse.
Wij staan voor een digitale wereld waarin privacy, veiligheid en vrijheid van meningsuiting de norm zijn. Vind jij dat ook belangrijk? Kom dan nu in actie en ontvang gratis de Pro Privacy Checklist met bijna 100 praktische tips waarmee je vandaag nog je privacy kunt terugpakken. Ga naar proprivacy.io/checklist.
And I think this is what, I will get people saying to me, but Laura, this is so big. This is so huge. How can I have any impact as an individual? How can I have an impact on what's going on? And they feel overwhelmed. Well, that was obviously by design. But my message is always, if you change yourself, if you change the way you're behaving, the way you say no, you take back your sovereignty. And that doesn't mean to say you have to be necessarily out protesting on the streets, or you don't have to be, a leader of an organization or an association. It's not the point. We're all absolutely powerful when we realize we have that power, and it's...
Well, you need a method, and that's, I think the method is also in claiming your rights with the right instruments. And normally a constitution of a country, and normally the Charter of the United Nations, we have to do other charters now, we have to update that. But the constitutions usually have the right of expression, the right to, to move, the right to self-determine your life and what you do for yourself. So we have to get back to basic instruments that can be applicable, because you see what the WHO and UN are doing. They're violating their own international instruments. What happened with the pandemic and all this, they have violated the whole international health regulation. They have violated the charter. They have violated, the expression. We were censored, the mobility. They did the lockdown, the masks. They imposed a dictatorship. It was so clear from the beginning that they're violating their own text. So this has to come to light, so people understand their rights are violated, and the rights they have is to live happy and in harmony.
Going back to your conversation of community and living with and if you as an epidemiologist, I know you would agree with the fact that we as beings were designed to live in small communities, in villages, where you would have personal relationships with all of the people that were around you and not be isolated. We've got this whole mass population of completely isolated individuals. We all live in small apartments. We get fed our information from media sources or social media or whatever it might be, and we've lost connection with other people.
Yes, of course, community is important, but community survival is based on, in the Vikings, they had the Storting and the Arl, and they discussed together if something is not right. If somebody lies, if somebody steals, the 10 Commandments, basically it is solved in the community. What we have now is a massive chronic lie and deception, and nobody can judge them for the moment. We need justice, or this discussion we have in community can happen, but something global has taken over.
Yes.
And so I really have very big hope that here and there tribunals have already judged. I'm part of expertise in many tribunals, and we know PCR test is wrong, it's 97% false positive. So things are moving on to justice, but the community has to put in place. How do you punish lies in a family? If somebody lies chronically, it's really a question. If you cannot solve it in a family, you cannot solve it in a community, and you cannot solve lies should be punished. They have consequences.
They do have consequences.
Serious lies. And we've been lied of everything from the beginning of this epidemic. Case zero, how do you identify, validate any agent, not just one, but many others. In outbreaks, there are 4 typologies. Everybody's looking in the same microbiological box, and I'm like open.
Yes,
we need to look at all the things that can really make people sick. So it's decentralizing everything, isn't it? It's enabling people to come back into smaller component parts where they have more of a at the same time, be in smaller community, but at the same time, we are a global world, and we also have to work as a global community, not only on one topic. That really disturbs me, that we only talk about virus. Professor Montagnier, at the end of his life, said to a friend of mine, and I know that it's been registered in many places, that no, does virus exist? He said, no, I'm sorry, he says. And he said it when he got the Nobel Prize of the HIV. And he said it's only, we only see certain things in there. The pictures are very important, but there are other things that kill: bacteria, parasite, chemicals, those strains that are terrible. As long as we don't identify this, we are in danger. So it's a work of people together from many. I mean, if you put metal in your body, of course you're going to have an infection at one point. Yes. It's so there. What I'm saying there for the topic we are dealing with today. Is that what is going on is horrendous, and we have to analyze very well the causality of what is going on. Yes. Then we have to analyze people's death, make autopsies, which were forbidden. We see in the blood they're finding plastic and things that should never be there, to find a solution that it never happens again. Quite. It is so serious.
No matter how
humanity is dead,
we have to embrace it now. We have to embrace what has happened, honor the fact that it has happened, and now start to look to solutions.
It's still happening.
Absolutely.
It's really forensic. We have to take this.
I
And
understand.
I know there are criminologists here, and I love to discuss with them because every case is important in forensic. So you take a case, and the case was for autism, and it was linked to the injection and to the causality and what happens with autism afterwards. I know RFK is a lot on this. Of course, that's exactly in forensic. Every case is important. But we have many cases of different symptomatology, different diseases, different deaths. I'm a godmother of many association of victims of the injection.
Yes.
In France and in other parts of the world. And it's heartbreaking to see the disaster. The Princess of Thailand died, and I know Professor Bhakti tried to save her.
Yes.
But as long as we don't know what is really there, we cannot help.
No, exactly.
Happen again,
Yeah.
So that is a very touchy subject still today.
Yes, but then knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power, but I cannot say everything to you now today.
No.
Because I have evidence of cases and of scientists who have been banned and almost got killed, some got killed, and that this is much bigger.
I totally honor what you say, and I also honor the fact that you have such integrity to sit there. And I feel that is where we need to step into. If we all, and literally every doctor, researcher, government person stepped into a place of integrity right now, the world would be changed in a minute.
Yeah.
In a heartbeat.
But yeah.
And that's what we have to honor. We may feel sometimes very alone. And, as you say, many people have been persecuted. And in some cases, they've lost their lives for holding on to their integrity and their truth. But now is the moment. We're living this in real time. And that's why I'm so honored to be able to have this conversation with you today and to hear what you have to share from your perspective and your deep experience and knowledge. And, I feel like we've all just been in training for this moment.
Yes, definitely. And I hope everybody who listens to us will take that seriously and bring this evidence further on, that we are ready to discuss all together the solutions, because it's a war on life itself. It's not just a war with drones, in Ukraine. Of course, it's important, and because we could always be, killed in 3 minutes with drones and electromagnetic frequency and hypertronic warfare. But this is not the agenda of a lot of people who are very high up in the politics. But we need to take care of those who suffer today, and there are solutions.
There are solutions.
Detox the blood,
Exactly.
really take care of yourself, be careful what you eat.
And I feel that is if we can come to that final point, that we have to be solution-based. We have to be able to offer hope at this point.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura.
Astrid, for spending this time with us. And you are a hope giver. Thank you.
Op dit exacte moment bewegen er miljoenen onzichtbare frequenties door jouw lichaam en de ruimte om je heen. Radiogolven, wifi, bluetooth, licht en geluid, magnetische velden en misschien zelfs signalen die we nog niet volledig begrijpen. Je ziet ze niet, je hoort ze niet, je voelt ze misschien onbewust, maar wat als ze meer invloed hebben op je leven dan je beseft? Wat is eigenlijk een frequentie? En als alles in het universum trilt, resoneert en een eigen frequentie heeft, welke rol spelen deze onzichtbare krachten dan in ons dagelijks leven? Nou, dat is één van de grote vragen die we gaan onderzoeken tijdens de allereerste editie van de Battle Beyond Science op 18 en 19 september dit jaar. Na het grote succes van de Battle for Science in februari, waar de staat van de wetenschap centraal stond, gaan we nu op zoek naar antwoorden op vragen waar de wetenschap geen of nog geen antwoord op heeft. Welke invloed hebben frequenties op ons lichaam, op onze gezondheid, op onze emoties en bewustzijn? En als die invloed er dan is, hoe werkt dat dan? Nou, dat gaan we dus visualiseren. Op grote schermen tonen we live hoe geluid, water, licht en trillingen zich vertalen naar indrukwekkende patronen en vormen. Niet alleen maar om het te zien, maar vooral ook om te leren, te ervaren en te voelen. Laat je dus verrassen door inspirerende lezingen, live-experimenten met onder andere remote viewing, telepathie, tijdreizen, kwantummechanica en sound healing sessies die wetenschap, verwondering en beleving samenbrengen. Met bijzondere gasten zoals de Britse wetenschapper John Stuart Reid, Erik Larakker, Marijn Poels, Baptiste de Paap, professor Pierre Capel, contactee Elena Danaan en vele andere. Stuk voor stuk sprekers die je zullen uitdagen om verder te kijken dan de grenzen van de traditionele wetenschap. Reserveer vandaag nog je ticket en beleef het allemaal op 18 of 19 september tijdens de allereerste editie van de Battle Beyond Science. Want alles heeft een frequentie.
This program is brought to you by Monflow, ITAR Innovative Technology, Real Root Supplements, Pro Privacy, Goud 999 en VRB van eenmanszaak naar BV.